what happened Saturday night, and I took like 2 days off because, girl, I needed some peace before I told you today and not Saturday. So what happened was that we wanted to go get some bomb tacos, and we go to this bomb place downtown, but there's no parking. So either you gotta pay $20 for valet, $20 for garage parking, or 20 miles to walk. And I was gonna do none of the above. So we turn in through the street/alleyway. So we could either like park right in front of the building with our emergency lights on to pick up our taco. When we see this car right in front of us with the flashing lights on, and we can't pass through, there's not enough space for our truck to go through. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get off real quick. I'm just gonna go get the tacos, come back while we wait for this person to move. While I'm doing that, the car leaves, and then this tall man comes out. So this butler man comes out, and he's like, you can't park here. First of all, he had his flashing lights on. That ain't parking, okay? It could be an emergency. He's like, this is a private residential area. You can't park here. Excuse me? I don't see no sign around that this is a private area. He's like, you people only want to come over here to get your tacos, and you don't pay like the residents in this area. What? Part two up, bro. I'm about to tell you what. So when this big butler man, because I don't know what to call him, was talking to us crazy, he was like, this is a private residential area. Sir, don't insult my intelligence. I mean, I look this way and I look that way and I don't see no sign. There's no sign specifically stating that this is a private entrance and we could not enter through here. So either I'm blind or you're lying. And I know it's 2020 and I got 20/20 vision. I was like, excuse me, sir, but legally we don't have to move from here because there's no sign that this is a private residential area. Now, if you can show me that there is, we will happily move out of your way. And he had the audacity to tell me, what are you, a lawyer? I'm sorry, Lord Jesus, I lied. I had to though. I had to for this moment. I was like, actually, yes, I am. And ain't nobody gotta be a lawyer to know basic city laws. That's on being educated. Oop, mic drop. You should have seen his face. Ah, joke's on you, sir. He's like, well, I'm gonna call the police. Karen, please call the police. We weren't in the wrong. And guess who got her tacos? So when this big, oh, and I forgot to address the fact that he said you people. I asked him, sir, who is you people? What are you referring to? Please address it. He skipped over it like he was deaf, sir. Don't play. And then he was trying to make it seem like because we weren't living there in this bougie area that we didn't deserve to be there. So you really think I'm gonna pay $3,900 to live in a loft when I can own a brand new house too with that mortgage? Oh, and also I was like, you can call the police and they're not gonna do anything because we're not in the wrong. You know what this dude said? And by everything that he said, I knew he was prejudiced. And, you know, I'm not gonna use the R word, but probably he was. He said the police doesn't do anything because this is Dallas. Sir, the disrespect. Yeah, you wanted to call him right now to try to intimidate me. So I think you just try to use the police to your advantage. And when they don't benefit you, you don't like them. Oh. But we don't play like that here. We're educated. We love our tacos. And you need to eat too. You probably were hungry. I know better than that.
How I ended up crying at a restaurant. I hate this story, but it taught me valuable lessons. So when I had just started working, yes, I was still a teenager, even so, we all went out to eat at a restaurant. And I never go to restaurants. We never went out to eat. Growing up, that's not something we did often. It was a Mexican restaurant. All I got, I kid you not, was 2 tacos a la carte. Which, if you know, that was probably $7. And a water. So in total, there was no way my bill was more than $10. I was there with my cousins. One of my cousins was paying with a gift card. She had no idea how much money was on the gift card. That's important later. I'm gonna build up to what happened here with the waitress. We start off, we sit down, we spill something completely by accident. We offer to clean it up. She cleans it up. It's all good. I just want you to know, we were all very inexperienced in going out to eat alone as like teenagers as a group. Looking back, we were very respectful. However, we didn't make a mess. The bill comes. Boom, it's $7. $7 and like 54 cents. I round up to 8. Planning to leave a tip in cash. Why I cried at a restaurant. Like I said, I rounded up my 7 and 54 cent bill up to 8. Planning to leave a cash tip. I don't know why I did this. It was probably my first time paying a restaurant tip. No one had ever taught me. And I thought in my head, I'm like, oh, it's just extra money. I'm just rounding up. And like, it's kind of like when you get the gas pump and you try to like round. I don't know. Anyway, she comes back in front of everyone with my bill that I had already written all this on. And she's like, I'm gonna explain this to you because you're young, but I don't need this extra cents. And I'm like, okay. She came up to me right here on my neck to show and explain that she didn't need the extra cents that I was giving her. This 50 cents, I don't need it. You can keep that. So we're just gonna erase it. She erased it with the pen. She scratched it out. And I was trying to explain. I was like, no, I was gonna leave cash. And she's like, no. She did not let me explain. She did not want to hear it. She was so mean. She was so aggressive. I started to cry.
My dad was way too overprotective story time. So your girl was in a long distance relationship and he would come see me like once a month. I mean, because who could resist me? Like, so this time he was coming for like a week. So I was like, let me convince my parents so he could stay at my house and save some money. Trying to take care of my king's bank account. You know, he got to pay for my stuff. Obviously, he wasn't going to stay in the same room because, like, God forbid, I would get like tuberculosis or something. So I don't know how, okay? But my dad got some FBI laser beams. No, like legit laser beams that if you like cross that laser beam, it sounds an alarm in the entire house. Like, bing, 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 bing. And I didn't know. You know, I don't know what was going on. So it was at night. I had to tinkle. So I opened my door room and I'm like, what is the little red line that I'm seeing? First, I thought a sniper was coming after me because that mug was pointing directly at me. All I hear is, ee. My dad ran out of the room like, what are y'all doing? What's going on?
Just had a very humbling experience at the store because I walked in and I recognized the employee there as a girl I went to high school with, like right away. And we were talking for a little while and I was like, we need to acknowledge that we went to high school together. This is weird. I should say something. I shouldn't have said anything. But I did. I said, hey, we went to high school together, right? And she was like, and I said, you went to high school here in town, yeah? And she said, yeah, but I graduated way back in 2011. And first off, that flattered me because it inferred that she thinks that I look like I graduated later than 2011. And if I was a smart person, I would have just cut my losses there and been like, oh yeah, no. But she said I graduated in 2011 and I was like, yeah, me too. And she said, oh, well, I was in like choir and stuff and I was like, yeah, me too. And she said, oh, but I was specifically in the treble choir and the concert choir. And I was like, yeah, me too. And she said, yeah, but I was all the way over in the alto section. And I was like, yeah, me too. And she said, what's your name? And I said, Kate Smith. And she just stared at me and she was like, I'm sorry, you know, it's so hard to recognize people with a mask, but it's good to see you again. And I was like, it's good to see you too after 10 years. This has been a very humbling experience for me. And now I'm eating gas station hostess in my car.
Story time on how I joined a cult that believed in preteen marriages. And I'm talking 10, 11, and 12 years old. Now, when I first joined, I didn't know it was a cult. I just thought it was a place where people just praised God. So coming into it, I recently had just lost my father, and my uncle suggested that I come to these circle meetings. And the meetings help with things like grief. When I joined, everything was fine, and I was getting the help. Instead of thinking deeply about my heart, they got me to think deeply about my brain and my mental health. And our teacher, he didn't like to be called pastor. He just talked about the ways of the world and God's plan. One thing I noticed that with his lessons, he would never use a Bible. I never questioned it because I believed it's because he knew a lot about it. But that was a red flag. I'll be back with a part 2. Part 2 on how I joined a cult. So our teacher, aka, was kind of like a preacher. One of the red flags were the fact that he never read from the Bible. And I always assumed because maybe he just knew a lot. So anyways, as I'm spending my time at this cult, they were telling me how I should be dressing, how I should speak to others, and always staying with the family. And anyone that didn't believe what we believed were looked at as devils. So after a couple months, I started back up with college, and I started hanging out with my friends again. So one day there was a block party going on, and of course I went with my friends. Then I saw this one guy from my church. I said, hey, gave him a hug, and he asked me about my friends. They turned around and said hey to him, and then he looked at him strangely, pulled me aside and said, you should not be hanging out with these girls. He was talking about how they were dressing and how they're basically Satan.